I'm here with the Dansco dude. And the Dansco dude, tell me why you're called the Dansco dude. And yeah, we're going to see some of his collection, but just tell me what's going on with you.
Yeah, so online I am known as the Dansco Dude over on the Collectors Forums, Coin Help You, and over on Instagram. And I've really made a niche over for myself as one of the eminent experts and historians when it comes over to the Dansco Corporation. And one of the goals that I've been working on is a preservation project. I have a library of over 700 different Dansco albums and folders. And my goal is basically to collect one of every Dansco album and folder that's ever been made since 1939. Like Dansco's been, it's a really big part of the hobby. I've gone to a lot of coin shows and coin shops, talked to a lot of old timers, and folks are telling me, I put in some of my coins back over in the 60s and 70s, and they still look like the same coin when I took them out decades later. So Dancer's got a really good reputation for both quality, and I think it's just got a very interesting history over to it. Um, there's a lot of fear with Dansco that one day the company might go bankrupt. And if that's the case, they won't make any more albums. And if they won't make any more albums, it's going to become scarce. And I think that's a lot of history that is really important to preserve. So I've been working on my preservation project, and I'm pretty proud to say that I now have one of every Dansco album that has ever been made that has been listed for sale publicly in by Dansco on their sales catalog. So I'm more than happy to show folks what I got going on.
Let's take a little look at it real quick just to give people a little sneak. And then I got some questions for you.
Yeah, the Dansco Dude Library. Over on top, I have a good amount of coin boards that's over from David Lang's collection. And we see over here 700 different coin albums, Dansco albums. And I've ordered it very much logical order: cents, nickels, all over to dimes. And one of the fun parts about the Dansco Corporation is that they really go into a lot of niche areas that a lot of coin album manufacturers don't get into. So over here, some of the more odd albums, you can see they've made albums for baseball cards, basketball, football, and hockey. They've also made it for like gaming tokens. There's even ones over for currency. The ones I'm especially excited about are these foreign albums. So we look over here, we have like Australia, all the way from cents, pre-decimal over to dollars. Here are a bunch of custom albums over for Canada. And over here, I think your audience might be very interested over in this. So we see down over here, these are some of the red Continental line albums. And I've been doing a lot of research over on these, but pulling a little bit closer, we see there are some really odd categories of albums here. You see like German colonies, commemoratives, Hong Kong types, Luxembourg. So a story that I think your audience might appreciate. The Continental Line series was made back over in the 60s by a gentleman named Irvin J. Felix. And if you go over online, look over at WorthPoint and eBay, these albums are extremely difficult to find. Some of them go for hundreds of dollars just empty by themselves. And that's because they only made them for about 2 to 3 years.
I'm familiar with Dansco being just that brown like leather color. I had no idea that it was like in red and other colors as well.
That's right. So the red wasn't Dansco originally. The man named Irvin J. Felix, he worked with Coins and Currency Institute. He worked over around like 1963, and he heard a lot of feedback about the CC&I albums. So he actually went ahead and partnered with Dansco to create these red albums. And these red albums are called the Continental Line series. So let me pull one. So we see here we have the United States Major Typeset. This album existed before the famous Brown album 7070. And we can see that it has almost the exact same format. But this album existed before what Dansco, the Brown albums today, because Irvin Felix partnered with Dansco to manufacture these albums, and he posted over on Coin World to try to sell over these albums. And we can see over here, it's called the Continental line. Let's see if I can get this. Yeah, the Continental line series.
That's amazing.
So it was popular for about 2 to 3 years, and Dansco ended up actually buying the rights over from Irvin Felix, and they ended up transforming the Red albums into the Brown albums today. So if you ever see these albums in your coin store, A, they're worth a lot, and B, these are the precursors to the Brown albums that we know today. So I think it's an interesting part of history over here.
That's amazing. It's something I had no idea. Now, you mentioned that Dansco, people had this thought that it may, disappear or go out of business. Is Dansco still around?
Dansco is definitely still around. So they've had a couple issues in the past few years. So first, because California was getting a little bit too expensive, they ended up moving their operations over from Los Angeles to Sumas, Washington State. But then COVID hit, and they had to shut down operations for a little bit. They also had some difficulties finding workers. They ended up having, I believe, 1 to 2 different floods that happened at their plant. So then they had even more time that they needed to be able to get operations up. So that was probably the height of people fearing that Dansco was going to go out of business. But they are open today. They mostly just released a massive reprint of the 7070 US typeset. And now they're going to be working on the American Woman Quarter series. That's going to come out over the next 2 months. And if folks want to keep up to date with what Dansco is up to or hear directly from them, they can go to danscousa.com. And they do post updates and leave comments and respond over to folks from time to time.
I find it fascinating, and it means a lot to me to see you researching and specializing in one big thing like this. That's just so cool to be like really good at like something like this. I've never seen it before. I'm sure a lot of my viewers never have. Does Dansco know about you?
They do know about me. I've been able to talk with them from time to time. They are very difficult to get a hold of. They tend to be more of like a mom and pop operation. So you think about like Whitman, you think about like Littleton. They produce like albums in massive amounts of quantity, and their business, their goal very much is to maximize profits. But every interaction that I've had with Dansco and the stories I've heard about them, basically since their family took over operation in 1939, they're very much a mom and pop shop. Their goal isn't necessarily to maximize profit as much as to make sure that they create really high quality albums and make enough money to take care of themselves, their workers, and their family. I mean, if you talk to coin shop dealers, especially, and ask them like, "Hey, what do you think about Dansco and how has it been getting your orders fulfilled?" Everyone's going to have a story about how much of a pain in the butt it is to work with Dansco, specifically in fulfilling their orders. Because they'll order thousands of dollars worth of albums and they'll only get like a few $100s per order. Because Dansco very much is just focused on making the best quality albums and not necessarily just expanding operations and maximizing profit. But they're still pretty respected today, I would say.
So now a lot of these other album companies, they're outsourcing to places probably like China to get it for cheaper, to get more quantity for sure. Dansco's pretty much been 100% made in the USA.
100% made in the USA with US workers. All their parts and materials, at least from every resource and contact I've talked with, all made in the USA, and Dansco proudly markets that.
That may be why when you put something in a Dansco album, it stays that way. It's archival quality, as opposed to some of these other albums where it's notorious, where you start seeing that toning and that coloration that comes on some of these coins that seems to be from the album.
Yeah. Not to say that Dansco is perfect, though. Some of their older albums, especially those that use the vinyl pages, they did have PVC in them. Like very often I would pull out old coins from albums that have been stored in them, or coins have been stored in these vinyl pages, and there would be some PVC damage. I believe Dansco has adjusted their materials to non-PVC, But I do want to give people a heads up over on that. But for the most part, everything's been made over in the USA.
That's fantastic. Um, so would you say that you have the biggest collection to your knowledge, like in the world slash universe?
I say yes, and I want to be wrong. If someone out there has a bigger collection, that means that that is someone out there that I can reach out to ask a whole bunch of questions and learn a lot from. So I want to be wrong over on this, but I think I do have the biggest collection out there.
And I want my followers to, kind of, maybe if they're on social media, wherever you are, I want them to be able to follow you. So can I have some information from you, maybe like your social media links down in my description of the video so people can see your journey?
Yeah, the biggest one is over on Instagram. Just look up at Dansco underbar dude, and you should be able to catch me out over there.
Yeah, I'll have that in this description so people can easily just, copy paste it and get to you for sure.
I would just say one thing with the Instagram page. I don't just only post pictures of my album. I also post pictures of research that I do over on the corporation as well. So just want to tap into the numismatic nerds and researchers out there. That's what I'm also up to.
Okay, and we're going to talk about some other things that you're involved in too. So people should stay tuned for that. But you mentioned the number 700. Is that's what's in existence, or there's other ones out there? Help me out.
That is the number that I have total in my collection, but it also includes albums that I've made myself. So I would say there's about 50 to 70 different custom albums that I've made. So one of the cool things about Dansco is that they sell blank binders and blank pages. And I have labels and materials where I can create my own custom albums. So Dansco made a Canada typeset album. They also made a Canada $1 album, but those albums haven't been updated in like 20, 30 years, and they haven't made albums for like 5 cents or 10 cents or anything like that. And I thought, like, I just look at it and it just pains me to see like this hole in my collection where like Australia has almost one for every denomination, and then it jumps over to Canada and it's like jumping right to the dollar and then the typeset. So I've been making a whole bunch of custom albums over for myself and filling that out. But for the most part, I would say that there is around 300 different Brown albums, and I have around 300 to 350 different um, folders. And there are the Brown folders. So you see down over here, these are the folders that Dansco has made. A fun fact, Dansco was actually the one who created the first coin folders in the marketplace. Most people think it's Whitman, but it was actually Dansco, I believe back over in 1939. So we see these Brown albums. These ones cover a lot of the foreign albums. But then we jump over here, and now we start getting over into the 1930s to the 1950s. So let me pull out one for example. We got a Jefferson Nickel album, and this is, we can see right over here, copyright 1941. Hopefully folks can see that. But pulling that out, these are one of the first original coin folders that popped out over into the marketplace. Dansco led the innovation over on that, and I think that's pretty cool. They have a lot of history over in them. Not to say I don't collect other types of folders as well. I have, whenever I go to like coin shops, I always find like some very, very odd albums, and it's an excuse for me to see what type of research I can learn. So I have a bunch of Warman folders over here as well. And then I'm slowly building up Whitman. I don't specialize in Whitman, but I come across them quite often. I think they're pretty cool, and I like to slowly build out over on them.
Some of these sets are very expensive to put together, like the 7070. I mean, it's hundreds of dollars to get that set, even in like a low condition. Are you filling these up full of coins right now?
Oh, yes. Let me. So the easiest, of course, is being able to fill out more of the modern coins. So a lot of folks get the impression like, oh, hey, Justin, Dansco dude, he collects all of these albums, but does he actually fill them out? And I'm like, yeah, like I started my journey in the hobby as a coin collector. And then I fell upon, Warman albums and Dansco albums as a way to store these coins. And then eventually I realized like, oh, there's an interesting niche I can help fill out here. So folks can see, these are all totally filled out as much as I can. To give folks a number, out of the 300 brown albums that I have, I would say probably about 200 to 220 of them have some coins in them, and about 70 albums are completely filled out themselves. Of course, like the Morgan Dollar series set or like the large cent series. Yeah, I don't expect to fill that out ever. But when you start talking about things like nickels, dimes, quarters, oh yeah, I'm filling all of that out all the time.
Super amazing. I see that you have a little humidity gauge right there. What's the upkeep for this stuff? Like, what do you need to watch out for?
Yeah, so the humidity from my research, best is between 40 to 50% humidity. Generally, 40% is pretty safe, and keeping it under 70 degrees, so about 67 to 69 degrees is the most optimal when it comes over to preserving your library. I'm over here in Colorado, and thankfully the weather is kind of nice, but gotta be able to have a little humidifier. So I always keep this thing over here, and I also have to keep my own AC system just to keep things a little bit separate.
Okay, so you've dedicated your room into this right here. I love it so much. Even your shelving units are actually really nice. Where'd you get those from?
I got this on Amazon.
Yeah,
I
those
am
nice.
a shill for these bookshelves because they're like $90 each, and I have like 10 of them now. But man, they're very good. They haven't failed me yet.
All right, this is wonderful. So, anything else Dansco related to? We can move on to the next topic. Anything else you got for us?
I would say with Dansco, folks come across like very odd albums and they have a question about it, just reach out over to me on Instagram for like an appraisal of like what an odd album or just anything is. Just reach out. Like a lot of people always message me like, "Hey, I got this weird thing I found at a coin shop. What do you think it's worth?" I'm like, "Yeah, A, I can probably get an answer over for you right away, or B, it's an interesting research question, and I always get back over to folks."
All right, what do you think is the most valuable Dansco album, just without the coins in it, just the album itself? What is currently the most valuable one, you think?
Oh boy, let me show you right here. This is the Swiss Confederation type. This one is empty because, yeah, it can be very fun to try to fill out this type set. Oh, hey, I do have one coin. Spectacular. How much do you think this album goes for? Empty.
I mean, you never know, but I'm gonna say $90.
Uh, try timesing that by almost 8.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, an eBay listing just sold this for about $770 empty, and it was a fair condition too. So yeah, these things are jumping up in value. Minimum price for any Dansco album in good quality is probably about like 40 to $45, but very easily the Continental line, the red ones I showed you, can go up to, I've seen them go up to $300, especially the more foreign types. And the foreign brown albums, they can easily go for a few $100s depending on the country itself. The less Anglo-American, the more rare the album is. So like Australian, Canada, those maybe go for like 100, maybe $200, depending on condition, the type. But when you're looking over like the Hong Kong series or like the Swiss series or Panama series, those can go way up. So folks, keep an eye out over on that.
It's funny how this whole social media influencing thing works because I'm sitting here going like, all right, see, I got to get to my coin shop real quick before somebody else does, so I can see what kind of Dansco albums they might have.
It's always fun. I go to a lot of shops often. I most recently just went on a massive road trip, but a lot of coin shop owners have told me that they don't. It's clear to me that they don't see the innate value from a monetary perspective of Dansco albums very often. And it kills me when I ask them about like the red Continental lines because they say they do come in from time to time, and then you just chuck them out. Like it murders my soul when they say, "Yeah, I just throw it out in the trash because like I don't know who's gonna buy that." I'm like, dude, people online are gonna spend hundreds on that, and I see this little like gleam in their eye, and you're like, "Thanks for telling me. I'm gonna keep it next time."
It's so common for them just to get rid of that stuff because, you know, as a coin dealer, that stuff piles up. People come in with these massive collections and they got room for the coins sort of, but they don't have room for all the boxes and the albums. So they just
Mhm.
it goes right to the dumpster. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Like for example, this Whitman album, classic folder. Most people start out over with them. Good luck if you can sell this for even $1. Like this is going to sit as inventory for dealers for a long time because no one really focuses on those little folders. So they
Yeah.
just extrapolate that to the albums for Dansco. But hey, I'm trying to get the awareness out there. Like this is history worth preserving.
Well, hopefully I can help a little bit with my channel trying to promote this because I think it's great. Now you mentioned a little bit of your road trip and you were featured in Coin World magazine, right?
That's
What's that
correct.
all about?
So I was over in Los Angeles in mid to late December back in 2023, so early last year. And I had to pick up a car over from family. And I realized that, oh, hey, I'm going to travel about like 1,400 miles from California over to Colorado. Maybe I should hit up some coin shops on the way. So I just looked over at Google, looked at a bunch of reviews, and I thought to myself, hey, let's see how many coin shops I can hit. So over the course of like 4 days, 1,400 miles, I hit up about 23 different coin shops in the span of 1 week. And it was a fascinating experience, to say the least. I got to work with people from all wide variety of different backgrounds. The Coin World article includes some stats that I was able to come up with, like the number of employees at coin shops that were more men compared over to women. Also, the demeanor. So, for example, I did a test because as a I'm in my 30s, younger collector, and I'm also a person of color as well. And I've always wondered the sense of like how judged am I when I go into a coin shop, being more of like a person of color, but especially like being younger. But I also want to test out a theory of how much does dressing up affect the way a coin dealer treats me. So for some days, I dressed up very casually, like sweatpants, like slippers and whatnot, and I got awful service. Like it was like I was being a burden to them coming over into the shop. And then other days I would dress up, a little bit more, got like a nice dress up shirt, nice jacket, nothing like formal, but just looked a little bit more respectable. And I just got a lot more respect. I got better deals. I saved more money out of that. And I left this experience realizing, or at least feeling, being younger and more of like a person of color, it didn't affect as much as I thought it would, but rather the presentation of like my social economic status, i.e., how much money they think they can get out of me. I think that affected a lot more. So that was very enlightening over for me. But I spent about like $2,000 getting a whole bunch of different Dansco albums. Was able to fill a lot of orders over on my want list and fill out a couple things over for my collection as well. So highly recommend, folks, give it a try. You're going to meet a lot of different kind of folks out there. Got other stories to share, but it's a happy memory over for me, and I'm glad I did it.
That's really special. It's cool that you got featured like that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
One more thing that you're involved in because you just have so much time just to do all this crazy stuff. Numi, tell me about this coin grading AI.
Yeah, so I work over as a product manager. So over in the technology space, I lead over engineers, and that's my experience. And I also have a little experience with coding. I've always been keeping an eye out on the latest technologies, and ChatGPT emerged over last year. And there's always been this talk about how we can combine more technology in the coin space, specifically when it comes over to coin grading. Now, AI coin grading or algorithmic coin grading is not a new idea. Back over the 1990s, there was a company called CompuGrade that used their algorithms to try to um, identify coins and then give a grade based on those algorithms rather than just relying on market grading where a grader would look and a lot of people think it's a little bit too subjective. CompuGrade failed back in the 90s because their algorithms it wasn't able to determine the difference between wear and damage. And that was a big issue over for them. But I looked over at ChatGPT, their new model GPT-4, and I wondered if there was something here. Like, was the vision technology and was AI strong enough to actually grade coins today? So when OpenAI released GPTs, which is a combination of being able to talk with your AI, being able to type with it, being able to take pictures, being able to send recordings, I created an application called Numi, where I was able to take pictures, and users can take pictures of a coin, and using a grading rubric, it would tell you what grade that coin is. It would identify that coin. It would also be linked up to other databases to tell you the value of that coin. So that was Numi that I worked on for about 2 months. It looked like it had some really good progress. I did get featured over in some newsletters like The Asylum, and I posted about it over on various coin forums like Collectors and Coin Help You. The community is awesome. Like, people would send me photos and say, "Hey, I'm going to hide the grade on the slab. Tell me what it is." I would guess it with Numi, and then it'd be say like, "Oh, it's totally correct," or "It's totally off." And I was able to tweak the AI a little bit back and forth. To make a long story short, it's not there today. The AI models is not powerful enough. And I've been only using GPT-4, which is the most powerful model by OpenAI. I posted some of my learnings over on the Asylum newsletter, but ultimately, I Numi faced the exact same issue that CompuGrade faced, which was determining difference between wear and damage. The lower the grade of the coin, the condition of the coin, the poorer the results that Numi would give back. But Numi got really good the higher the grade that you got, specifically around like MS65 all the way to MS70 or even over into the proof ranges. So Numi was an interesting experience. I just wanted to learn a lot more about AI and see if I can combine my love for both technology and numismatics. It's not there yet. I'm going to wait until GPT-5 or Google's Gemini Ultra model comes on out to retest Numi. But if folks want to give it a try, you can go on asknumi, NUMI.com. Just a heads up, though, you do need to have a subscription to OpenAI's ChatGPT Plus or ChatGPT Pro, which is about $20 a month. But that money goes to OpenAI. It doesn't go over to me, and you have access to a bunch of other different AI tools out there. But if you have that, asknumi.com, take some pictures, give it a try. I would love to get folks' feedback.
So it's not there yet, but definitely stay tuned because it seems like one day it could very well be there. I'm just kind of curious when it comes to toning. How is the AI able to work around toning?
It doesn't work around with toning very well. It can identify if a coin is toned, but it doesn't have any rubric to be able to say, "Oh, it's toned. It's toned like X amount, like 50%, 100%." It doesn't really know how to work with toning. I know that there's a startup over at Y Combinator right now that is looking at being able to use AI or at least computer vision to better identify tones. But Numi GPT-4 just really isn't there yet with toning.
Okay. Well, listen, I'm absolutely fascinated by you. I think you've done some really cool things. And, when you think about your long term here, you're doing things for our hobby. And I know you may not really, totally grasp that yet. You may, I don't know. But when you do videos like this and you show that you are, a huge Dansco collector and you're creating some AI to help the grading services. And I mean, this is all stuff that will build this hobby. And so thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that. And thank you for coming on and talking to me for sure. It's awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I just stumbled upon a niche in the field, and it's been really cool to be able to say that I'm a little bit more of an expert on this, and most importantly, just helping people answer questions and preserving a little bit of history.
So what can we look forward to in the future from you?
So over in the future, definitely working over on Numi when the new AI apps come on out there. And I am working on a website and a couple forum posts to document every single Dansco album folder that I have, including photos of every single page. So it can serve as the single resource if folks want to know what Dansco albums exist and what it looks like over on the inside. And if folks happen to be over at the ANA conference over in Colorado Springs coming over in March, I am giving a talk about Dansco. It's called and Guns, Grains, and Gamblers, or something along those lines. It's going to talk about a couple of the custom albums that Dansco has made over the years. One of them is with casinos, another is with the UN FAO, which did food security, and another one talked about the Gulf War. So if folks are interested in that, I believe my talk is taking place that Friday during the convention. So check it out, say hi.
Super fascinating. Okay. And again, remind people that I'm going to put your information down in the description of the video. They can copy, paste it, click some stuff, whatever they want to do, so they can go ahead and see what the Dansco dude is up to. And you're more than welcome if you fall into a pit of more Dansco albums, you want to show them off, you're more than welcome to come back on this channel. I'd love to have you. Whenever you get your website blazing, let me know, and I can help people to see that a little bit more. But I really appreciate you coming on here and talking to me. And until next time, I hope you just keep on stacking the Dansco albums.
I appreciate it as well. Thanks a lot, man.
Well, hello, everybody. I seek to educate and entertain through my journey of collecting coins and stacking precious metals. I encourage you to subscribe, and please stay with me on this journey. I am Spegtacular, the Silver Stacular. You know, when I was a kid, we did this every day in school, and I believe we need to bring this back a little bit, and I'm going to start right now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.